Hi and welcome back to Corporate Underground. This week I have Craig Scheef, a very good friend of mine and my actual brother. So there is some nepotism going on today. Yes, he does have a different name to me, and that was because I needed to change. I had to go undercover. I didn't want to be associated with the nicest guy in the world. Very hard being associated with Craig because he is the nicest guy in finance, and it's very hard to grow up in a person that's always nice to everybody. But that's my brother, and I'm the opposite, obviously. So, Craig, welcome to Corporate Underground. Having watched all our episodes like our mum does, with our three big fans, how are you going this week and what's happening to you?
Hi all, thank you for having me along. I'm going very well. Now having a good week and life is good.
So you've just moved. You moved down to Melbourne a couple of years ago from Ballingen, where you were raising my nephews and nieces. How are you finding Melbourne, and what's been happening in the world of finance since you've been here?
Actually, I spent 17 years in Sydney and then 15 odd years up the mid-north coast of New South Wales. So I'm a bit of a country boy, but I love being in the city as well. So it was, whilst it was a pretty idyllic lifestyle up there, easy access to everything. It's actually nice being back in a city, in Richmond. So if I came back to a city, I said I wanted to be able to be walking distance, riding distance, didn't need my car, so easy to get around. And, I'm loving the lifestyle of Melbourne. Obviously, COVID's made things a little bit tricky, but not having kids living with me and being set up to work from home, it's actually been pretty good. So, no, enjoying it. And the world of finance is going quite well as well.
I find that, so in the world of finance, you're an investor, okay? Like this COVID, everyone's saying that this is actually a good thing for a lot of investments. Are you finding that?
Yeah, it's like the business world. It's very two-tier. You've got areas like travel and hospitality and things that have just been a bloodbath. And if you've been in that area, it doesn't matter how good you've been with your business, you've just been torn apart. But if you've been in software and technology and work from home and those sorts of businesses, you're probably booming at the moment. So, and investing, I guess, has been a little bit like that. But you've also just had a flood of money being pumped in to the world, which has helped a lot as well. So we've been fortunate. We've been in the software and tech and not in the travel industry or hospitality. So yeah, it's been good from our perspective.
This is incredible, isn't it, Ronan, that you can prove that personality has nothing to do with genetics right here, because you got someone that's all about the future and planning, all future, and then this giant ape that falls over and finds money. Like this is the two different options in that here.
Yeah. It's funny, when I was first introduced to Craig, and as Matt says, nicest guy in finance, one of the things I've been struck with about you, Craig, is just your huge amount of integrity. One of the people that came to one of our dinners said that you need to eat a kilo of salt before you really get to know somebody. Now, as three of us being older men here, salt's like crack cocaine. You put it on everything. More salt, more salt. But what I have noticed that you are exactly what you say on the tin. You've if you're asked to do something, it gets done, even though you manage a very large portfolio of a lot of money and you've got all of these other constraints. If you've said you can do something, you can always do it. So what I've really noticed about you, Craig, is your integrity, is that you spend that time to make an introduction to someone or to listen to a pitch that isn't really for you, but you'll help someone and put them in the right direction where they can potentially get finance for their startup or for their business as well. So, I subscribe to this idea that you are the nicest guy in finance. And I would imagine, finance is one of those things that you look at. I recently watched The Big Short again. You look at how unconscionable a lot of people in finance have been. We've had a royal commission of the big banks, lending to dead people, all of these things. you're the antithesis of that, in the fact that you can handle a lot of big money, and you can handle it in a way that keeps your integrity. So it's an interesting business you must be in.
Actually,
thank you for that. I'll give you the $500 later.
Yeah.
$1,000.
Yeah.
See, but that's the difference between finance, right? He's going to give you $500. I'll give you $5. That's the difference in maths that we're working at. So, Craig, Warren Buffett, the person who started the whole a la carte changeover, you're basically, I'm going to get that. I'm going to get a laugh out of that. But with these banks, have you noticed these royal commissions and all the rest of it? There seemed to be one country, Iceland, that actually took any action on that, and they've changed. But America and all these other people, no one gets caught, or they'll scapegoat one person. Why does that happen in finance? What is the thing that they can get away with doing this and not being held accountable?
Yeah, I actually don't know if it always happens in finance. I think it happens in a lot of industries, but I guess, finance is a money-centric industry, or it can be, and money tends to go hand in hand often. So I don't know why it happens, but there's obviously a lot of people trying to hide, get away with things, and money.
But does it come from that greed is good? Like that whole culture where, you need more. And look, when I ran my business, you're working 60, 80 hours, you're always chasing. It wasn't until I stepped away from that, and it took something to take me out of that for me to realize what you're in. I've seen you stressed very rarely. I've seen, when things have been tough and the market's not going well, you don't change greatly. But I've seen other people that will take shortcuts, that if they're doing poorly, they'll start to do backhanders, or they'll start to do follow through. They chase the stress. They chase the I have to be's. Well, you don't seem to do that. Why? Why is that not affecting you as much?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've got a pretty balanced character. I'm also not chasing money. I'm not doing what I do. We obviously do what we do to make money through life, but it's not a driver for me. It's, I've had periods of time where I've done really well, and periods of times where it's been really tough. And it's never been the driver for me to make the money. It's about building the relationships, enjoying what I do, helping people out. I enjoy the process. I enjoy the thinking. I view it a bit like the world. It's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle, and it's putting those pieces together, and all those pieces don't come at once. They come at different points in time. So I really enjoy the process of doing what we do, and in life as well, I enjoy the process. So I don't tend to get caught up with what's coming in or going out monetary wise, whereas I think a lot of people in today's society do, and particularly I think if you're in that big finance area where they get obscenely overvalued and overpaid, that it probably does, it can affect a lot of people's ego.
You said earlier that you were kind of lucky to be away from some of the industries that got smashed, but your philosophy really is to look for emerging trends that have been proven and put your money and your clients' money into that. So in many ways, I would say airline industries is a fairly old school model. Not a huge amount of growth there. Most airlines lose money. So there would be elements, the fact that I wouldn't call it luck. I would say the fact that you pick those trends are emerging anyway and already proven, which has probably really helped you during this time.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think that a lot of those industries are tough industries, and industries we wouldn't normally invest in anyway. I guess you don't know when a cyber attack happens or something, and then it comes in and affects the industries that you think are growing and solid, and happens anyway. So I guess we were fortunate that didn't happen where we were invested. But you're right, we do look back and try to identify those areas that are going to do well over the next 12 months, 24 months, 5 years, and position into that theme and trend coming through.
I'd like to just circle back, if we can, just to like these guys blowing the smoke up your tuchus about your ethics and stuff like that. But like, how do you keep it in check? Because like, it is something where you're talking about investment, lots of money is involved. You are dealing with, rich, powerful people by, definition. So like, how do you decide whether you're going to turn something down or not, choose not to invest in it, or choose not to let the people that you manage invest in it? How do you keep your ethics in check?
Yeah, look, that's a good question. I think it's probably innate in how you operate and how you think, or it's not, or you have to make that conscious decision. For me, I think it was probably just the way I was brought up. I was brought up in a family that was very loving, and a family that had very a lot of integrity and ethics, and I tended to hang out with those sorts of people as well. So I think it's just ingrained how I think, and my DNA is to always try and do the right thing, not rip people off. So yeah, it just sort of comes natural.
So one of the things that probably nobody, or the people that know us know, but you were adopted at birth. And you're my older brother, although I look older and wiser and better looking. I understand all these things. But you were raised. One of the big questions we've probably thrown about, but is nurture versus nature. You were raised by parents that loved you. Our mother, so we've got the same biological father and the same biological mother. What do you feel is it nature or is it nurture? I mean, you've turned out how you've turned out, and there's a lot of similarities between the two of us, but there's also some big differences. But then you look at Aaron and Kalinda, there's some big differences in that. I look at my sons, Axel and Duke, and they couldn't be more different at this early stage. But kids sort of grow into be different things anyway. But what part does nurture take over from nature? What do you think?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's, I guess, one of the reasons why I ended up, tracking down our mum, and we ended up meeting. Was when I had young kids, and I guess all that process came to mind. And look, I really don't know, and I think there's been probably quite a lot of studies on it that people can delve into and try and get the right answer. For me, I think it's just a mixture of both. I think, as you said, having had kids, and my kids are now in their 20s, so having seen they were brought up very similarly, tried not to do things differently between them, and yet they've all got very different personalities and do things very differently. So I know, from my perspective, I think it's a mixture of both. I think there's a real lot in us that come from our birth, but then I think then the situations that you get put in throughout life, can bring out certain factors of those more so. So I think the basics there when you're born, your traits and how you're going to operate, and then it gets accentuated and pulled in different directions depending on your upbringing.
You've seen a lot of wealth. I mean, I've been with you. We've gone on trips to Perth when I was running my business, and I went with you. And I've met billionaires with you. I've met really quite wealthy people. And they all seem very similar. I mean, there's a sort of way that they walk and they talk. How do you think our kids can become more financial savvy and sort of, there's a sort of way that people with money pass information to their children that I've seen, or pass information to one another. How do you think kids can be taught to be financially savvy and to pick up on things?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think awareness is a big thing. I think just a lot of people don't think about it. They don't put themselves in the position of being aware how to generate a future for themselves. And so I think what's probably common in a lot of those wealthy upbringings is they're just surrounded by that thought process, that thinking about going to a restaurant and not just sitting down and having a meal, but thinking, okay, there's a couple of chefs, how many waiters, what's the cost of the food, how much money that place may be generating. And a lot of that sort of becomes subconscious. And so then their lives, they start to just become more aware where to invest, how to operate, how to save money. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you make if you're spending more than you're making. And so I think a lot of that's probably not well understood in a lot of families. And it's obviously easier to do that when you have some money. But I think it's just a thought process and a way that you think. So trying to educate children along the way, just that there is money in the world and we do need it to function. It doesn't have to be the end of how we operate and the only drive. It's only a very small part of how we think and what should drive us, but it is part of it. And I think it gets completely left out by a lot of families. And I think bringing that more and just that thought process and thinking can make a lot of difference when somebody gets older to being successful with on their monetary side of things.
Will it help them not grow up to be a little shit, basically?
No.
That was a long-winded answer for that one.
Well, that's where the humble and not teaching them to have a big ego, I guess, comes in. Yeah.
Not giving a living allowance. Craig, now, so yeah, I've got a question for you, a bit of a truth moment, because as Tony said, we've been telling everyone how fabulous you are. So someone sold their business or they've got all this generating cash. That's normally the people that come to you. How can we trust that you are good at what you do? So give us one great success story, which is what everyone does whenever you pitch to the meeting. Oh yeah, I did this for this company and they grew 300%. And tell us one dud that you invested in. So let's balance the ledger. One great investment, one dud one.
Okay. Look,
so many to pick from.
Winners or duds?
Yeah, exactly.
I was lucky back in the 2000s in that tech boom. You know, we had a company that helped me out when I was younger that ended up going up like about 60 times in value from when we first invested. So, you know, that really helped. But like probably on a more recent time frame, you know, we had an investment about 5 years ago that we invested in when it was probably worth about $30-40 million, and today it's worth about $1 billion. So that's really added a lot of value for our clients. So, and it's one thing we try and do is identify those businesses that you can make those sorts of gains over. 20 years ago, I was a seed investor in Flight Centre, and that business over the next 5 years went up 36 times in price. If you can identify some of those early stage businesses, that can be really life-changing for people. So that's, you know, that's what we try to do. We've had some success in that area. Yeah. And look, I've had shares that I've invested in have gone to zero. And mainly it's been because management just haven't executed.
Somebody else's fault. Okay, I think that is somebody else's fault.
No, it was 100% my fault because I backed those people. My job's to pick the right management to back.
One of the great things that Craig did teach me, like in real estate, if you're going to buy property, there's an old adage, it's location, location, location. If you're going to buy a share, it's management. It's the team that drives the team that drives the team that comes behind. If you don't have that management, ultimately it'll all fall apart. And I have been involved with a couple of duds that Craig's been involved in, but it was the CEO was stealing money, or it was that he had a drug addiction, or it was things that were out of control, or it was government coming in and changing the trajectory, but also it changed the trajectory for somebody else. But yeah, I mean, that's what I've learned from you, Craig, was to look at these things and say, who's running it? What is their experience? Have they done it before? The team behind them, have they done it? Are they working with it? And the team behind them, are they doing it? Because that gets everybody else behind them to deliver it. So I think that's been a big success for me to learn from you. Is there anything else that you would say is a success? I mean, I know you do a lot of graph reading, but what are the other points that would make a real difference if you were looking at a share to purchase?
Yeah, I mean, the bit I'd probably add, and which is we've probably been doing a little bit more in recent years, is how ethical the people are. We got burnt a couple of years ago by a guy who was a very savvy business operator, and he had a tax. He actually went to jail for tax avoidance. And at the time, though, I thought he was a very good business operator. He generated a huge amount of wealth. And we actually didn't think he was heavily involved with the business. He was just a bit off to the side. So we continued to back that business, but it ended up, he got more and more involved, and his prior ethics ended up tainting what he was doing within the company, where we believe we were totally misled and lied to. So I do look a lot now more at just how people behave on their day-to-day outside business, outside work, and what their ethics are like. And obviously we now try, getting older, we try and surround ourselves by those ethical, high integrity people as well. So I think that's the other thing I would add to that. What was the other question, Matt?
I don't listen to what I say, so if you don't remember, it's no hope.
But we're out of time anyway, so before you ask a 20-minute answer question, I think we should let it go there. So, Craig, thank you so much for joining us. We'll get you in next week where we'll talk about your topic. But for those of you that don't know Craig, that's a little bit about him. I'll pop a link to him on LinkedIn in the description. Is there any other ways for people to follow you, Craig? Anything else we should mention?
No. You have a bit of a presence on LinkedIn, not hugely active, post from time to time. Best way to contact me is let's go out for a coffee or a beer.
Yeah,
you would have some kind of investment report. I've seen one or two of your investment reports. Do you have something people can subscribe to? So if you do, we'll drop a link in to that as well, so they can.
Yeah, maybe the website. We'll check the website.
Got to be a member, baby. Got to be a member. You can't just get free advice.
Nice.
Yeah, actually, we're one of the few groups that we don't give access to our monthly reports, because we do a lot of IP in those, and we think you need to be a client. But we will send out information and keep people updated from time to time. But no, you really need
old news. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is what happened.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Craig.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.